let's move on to college football. The SEC game of the week, you have Texas A&M. They're ranked 7th. They're playing the Arkansas Razorbacks, who's ranked 16th. To be a little bit of a surprise, Texas A&M has won 9 in a row. What's your thoughts on this game?
Well, it's no question about it's going to be the biggest game on the college football landscape on Saturday.
Absolutely. I'm excited for this one.
I'm going to say this first. I'm going to start with A&M. They're starting the quarterback, local kid from where you at it, Gwinnett County, played it in their high school. I don't want to butcher the young man's name. I'm going to say Zach Kazanga. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. He's going to be starting his second game on the year. Texas A&M has got some players. They're a team that likes to pound the ball a lot. They got playmakers on the side. Isaiah Spittler is a very good football player. He's got 250 yards on the season. Their defense is one of the top 2 defenses in the country. In 3 games, they only given up 5.7 points a game, 17 points total. They got playmakers over there. Aaron Hansford is a very good linebacker. DeMarvin Leal is a good player. And they deserve their number 5 ranking. A lot of people are saying, hey, after they struggled against Colorado, went up there and won that football game in Colorado by the score of 10-7, but they lost their quarterback, Hayes King. Then they came back against New Mexico, had a very impressive outing, beat New Mexico 34-0. But what I liked about that game was they did everything they're supposed to do offensive, but on the defensive side, they had 11 tackles for losses in that football game. And they did not allow a first down in the second half. So this is a team I think is deserving of the number 5 ranking. Number 7, as you just said, Jimbo Fisher, he's cashed the check. When they hired him, he said he'd have Texas A&M, in 4 years in the top 10. Now, to the Arkansas Razorbacks. A lot of people don't know is that I attended the University of Arkansas a long time ago when you weren't even in this great country, as we say, the United States. I went there as a true freshman from 1978 to 1981. I walked on in 1980, got cut, tried to play on the football team. But at that time, Arkansas was going to bowl games, and they was a mainstay in the old Southwest Conference. And I remember all the battles against Texas A&M at that time. And when I was in school, Arkansas never lost to Texas A&M. And players that was part of that Texas A&M team, Johnny Hecker, Ernest Jackson, Billy Cannon Jr., Ray Childers. But this should be a name to you. Gary Kubiak was the quarterback. That's right. Who was the former back of the John Elway and won the Super Bowl as the head coach of the Denver Broncos. But getting back to the game and looking at my Razorbacks, I got to say I'm very proud of the job Sam Pittman has done. I know he's a good football coach, and what he did over at Georgia is being one of the best offensive line coaches in the country. But in the 2 short years he's been at the University of Arkansas, I'm very proud because what he's done, he's followed what he loves to do best, and that's run the football. And if you look at Arkansas, there's nothing fancy about them. They're going to spread you out, but what they want to do, they're going to still pound the football. 2 weeks ago, they shocked the college football world when they beat number 15 Texas and beat them handily. Had 330 yards rushing that evening, had 5 players that on the season went over 100 yards. Then defensively, they beat them up on their side of the ball. Got one of the best strong safeties in the country in Jalen Catlin. But the guy that I think is going to play the big key on Saturday is KJ Jefferson. I think when you look at the first 3 weeks of the college football season, just go look at the stats. Just look at the stats and look at the game film. I would say he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks that's played at a high level this season.
Can I ask you a question real quick? Great that you brought up KJ Jefferson. Do you think he'll be able to throw on this number 1 defense down the field? They're the number 1 in scoring defense, and they have the number 1 pass defense right now in the country. You think he'll consistently be able to throw down the field? Arkansas, like you said, their running game has carried them. I'm not saying he can't make plays, but we haven't seen him move the ball down the field. Is it just they haven't really needed to install that, or do you think it's coming against A&M, or this is one of those games where they're going to pound the rock?
When I look at that, and that's good you asked that question, go back last week. I know Georgia Southern's not Texas A&M, but he did have 336 yards passing in that game and 3 touchdowns. But I think the key to that, and answer your question, are all predicates of Arkansas is able to run the football. That's their bread and butter. Like I said, they got 5 Outside KJ Jefferson, they got 4 backs over 100 yards. If that happens, then that's going to open the game up. And remember this, I know Texas A&M, Damani Richardson and Jalen Johnson are really 2 great football players for A&M in the secondary. But the key to that is Arkansas running the ball, then you force a man-to-man coverage. And one thing, I didn't even mention Treylon Burks, one of the best receivers in the country. All you got to do is check the NFL draft boards, and he's listed on some of the first-round draft boards. And he's a guy that can make plays, averaging over 17 yards a catch. But if that happens, I think KJ Jefferson is going to have a great game. And when I look at KJ Jefferson, you know the real reason I'm proud of him, Jackson, is this right here. He's from the state of Mississippi. He's from Sardis, Mississippi, which is 48 miles from my hometown, Memphis, Tennessee, the 901. And I always say this. I don't have to say anything else, but check the records. There's something in the water in the state of Mississippi. Walter Payton, Jerry Rice, Desi Dean, Alex Burks, Mate Ellis, Antonio McDyess, Brett Favre, Archie Manning, the entertainers, let me go acting, James Earl Jones, Morgan Freeman, and my parents, Chester and Inez Turner. So anybody that's coming out of the state of Mississippi that's got some athletic problems to themselves, they usually end up doing very well. But when I look at this football game, I'm just excited because now I can stand up as a true Arkansas alum and call the Hogs. And when I look at it, I'm putting Texas A&M in the same boat as Texas. A&M, I don't think it's been tested. And it's going to be a game that's going to be won at the line of scrimmage. And if you look across the country, you tell me which team has the best offensive line right now. Well, I'm putting my money on Marion Cunningham, Dalton Wagner, and Ty Clark. You know who they play for? They play for the Arkansas Razorbacks. And I'm putting them on that offensive line. It's going to be a good game, a close game, 2 teams slugging it out. The game of the day, and I'm going with my Hogs. I think Sam Pittman and them are going to keep it going. And after the game, I'm going to do something very simple like this. Whoa! Pig! Suey! Whoa! Pig! Suey! Whoa! Pig! Suey! Razorbacks! Dun, 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 dun.
Hey, man, look, the breakdown and the celebration, it just, I'm trying to figure out which one was better. I disagree. I think A&M's going to win. I think A&M's going to be the cleaner team. I think Jefferson's going to make a couple mistakes. But look, the celebration is grade A. It could go either way. I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to win on the road because this is a test for A&M too. They still have some things to prove. It's a long season in the SEC, specifically the SEC West, which is stacked. So this is just test number 1. I think it's close to being a 50-50 game. I think A&M's defensive line is going to dominate. I think they create a couple turnovers. I think you're going to see some looks, some stunts up front that maybe Arkansas hasn't seen, but they're going to have to stop the running game of Arkansas. And I just want to see, and this is what I'm looking forward to seeing. I want to see Jefferson on 3rd down. I want to see when the pressure's on, when maybe they don't have a lead. They're down by 7 points. That's what I'm wanting to see. That's one of the key things I'm looking forward to seeing. I think it's going to be a heck of a game. SEC fans, they're going to come out and want to see this one. I'm excited. I'm excited about this. Do you have any final thoughts on the game? Something added that we should know or fans should look at before watching on Saturday at 3:30?
I'm going to say this. They play at a neutral site. It's going to be in Jerry's World where the Cowboys play. Both teams are going to have 50% of their fans in the house. So to me, it's going to be more or less like a national championship feel to it. But what I like about the Razorback, and you brought up some good points about A&M, no question about it. They got one of the top defenses in the country, maybe only giving them 5.7 points a game. But if you look at their schedule, they have not played a team that's physical, can run the football. And you're right, it's going to be one at the line of scrimmage. And I'm going to end you with this. I told you early in the conversation, Traylon Smith, Raheem Sanders, Dominique Johnson, A.J. Green, and of course with the quarterback KJ Jefferson. All of them over 100 yards rushing on the year. Arkansas as a team has 847 yards rushing, 6.1 yards of carry. And I'm banking on that their offensive line is going to really carry the load on Saturday. And Sam Pittman, all you got to do is look at his body of work for it before he got to Arkansas. And how he had that offensive line rocking over there in Athens, which is about an hour from where we live at. And think about who he put in who went in the pros at running back from over there. Todd Gurley, Sonny Michel, Nick Chubb. Now he's brought that plane over to Fayetteville, Arkansas. And don't get me wrong, Texas A&M is a good football team, but they have an inexperienced quarterback. And this is a game where Texas A&M has not played nobody the caliber of Arkansas. Remember, Arkansas beat 15th-ranked Texas 2 weeks ago, and they put up 330 yards rushing.
Absolutely.
And then nobody, and the same thing that I heard some of the pundits, they were saying the same thing you were saying, Jackson. So you're waving the fence. So stay with your pick and go on and pick the Aggies. You talking about 50-50. Stay off the fence. Stay off the fence and go with the Aggies. And I'm going with the Hogs. And to Razorback Nation across the country, it's time, as they say in Atlanta, rise up. It's time to rise up and start eating that hog, because we're going to be serious in Jerry's World on Saturday.